Private sector should be the main employer and the main creator of wealth in the ACP. Therefore, it's very important that they are involved in discussions that concern how they do business, how do they create jobs, and how they promote sustainable development.
For us in the Pacific particularly, and in the broader ACP, I imagine, it's the heavy reliance on private sector to deliver, particularly in terms of not just job creation, but a lot of the social and economic benefits.
Private sector is absolutely vital to the implementation of agreements. As we all know, governments negotiate, but it's private sector that implements. And as the ACP Young Professionals Network, in several fora, be it in the youth forums of the EU ACP Joint Parliamentary Assembly or at the EU CARIFORUM Consultative Committee, we are pushing forward to make sure young people who run businesses and young entrepreneurs are represented and have their voice heard in international fora.
I would say across the ACP, one of the things that really stands us out and actually is the underpinning engine for our growth happens to be our trade. When it comes to international trade, leveling the playing field is not really a reality because we are at different levels of development.
I think the private sector should have the opportunity on this occasion to put forward very clear plans for each industry or for each sector where we feel that we have either comparative or competitive advantage. There should be very specific plans outlining what market access require, what are the constraints, what are the obstacles to get into the market, what technical assistance require in that regard, what levels of investment that will be required, and these should be for long term.
Je pense qu'il est important de prendre part à ce genre de consultation pour les négociations post-Cotonou, parce que nous avons toujours plaidé pour la participation des paysans dans tout ce qui est prise de décision, dans le suivi, dans les négociations des politiques. Et donc être présent dans une telle consultation, c'est déjà donner nos points de vue en amont et pouvoir être en mesure de suivre en aval si elles ont été prises en considération, s'il y a des défis majeurs à leur mise en pratique, et puis de trouver également, de travailler en coopération, en collaboration avec les politiques pour trouver les meilleures solutions pour nos paysans, sachant qu'en Afrique, la plus grande partie de notre population, ce sont les paysans, ce sont les habitants des zones rurales, et on voudrait absolument qu'ils soient partie prenante de ces négociations.
Forums like the ones that we are attending today are extremely important to ensure that the views of business support organizations and ultimately private firms, especially those who are beneficiaries from EU programs, have the opportunity to help shape what the future partnership arrangement would look like.
We think of an idea, and in our business mind, if it makes sense, we want to run with that, right? And many a time, particularly in the Pacific where the economies are very small, and it is very difficult to get finances from the commercial banks. So you have to depend on the assistance that is available. But to get that assistance, right, it takes a lot of time, a lot of bureaucratic process. We have to cut down the bureaucratic process.
At the end of the day, we're the ones that will be implementing the agreement. We're the ones that will be dealing with the issues that are problematic and trying to find solutions to that, because that's the job that we do. We find solutions to problems.
I expect one to learn the needs and expectations of the private sector in terms of positioning the relevant elements needed in the Post-Cotonou negotiation process.
This type of meeting for us, I think, outlines specifically two objectives. One is obviously to come together as an ACP region, working with our colleagues and partners from the African and Caribbean states to consolidate and put together our positions as we go forward in terms of negotiating, not us specifically, but our ambassadors in Brussels and our governments, but also for, as the Pacific region to also network. I think we don't get much opportunity to meet up with our African and Caribbean partners and stakeholders. So obviously we look at the 2 days, to provide that opportunity for us to just network and connect.
For example, here I met some business people who are based here in Barbados and the area of media, and I was told they have like a media house that covers the entire Caribbean, and they have a vision to come to Africa and have broadcasting activities in Africa. And I was like, oh, that's very exciting. And maybe if I get some partners in Rwanda, we can work on that business and partner together and have their television shown in Rwanda, in Africa.
Those who are investing are the private sector. And those who are trading within the country, even across the borders, they are also the private sector. So I think if we need to succeed in the negotiation, we need to bring on board the stakeholders, and the private sector is the key stakeholders in this process.
I would like to see a framework that can incorporate young people, because they have the ideas. All over the world, you're seeing them, the millionaires are getting younger and younger. They have the different process, and besides, we're mapping out a vision, a future for them. I think they need to have a voice.
And there's so much we can offer, not only in terms of sales of goods and services, but sharing of knowledge and experience in a number of sectors that could only add to the overall benefit in terms of growth of ACP group of countries.
Les 79 pays de l'Afrique, du Caraïbe et du Pacifique, ensemble, dans un partenariat intelligent avec l'Union européenne, on peut réaliser beaucoup de choses. Voilà. Donc il est absolument important que le secrétariat ACP puisse continuer à regrouper tous ces pays, à réfléchir sur ce qui peut être fait ensemble, à échanger les expériences qui ont réussi ailleurs pour pouvoir profiter à d'autres pays de pouvoir en bénéficier, parce que la coopération, les partenariats sud-sud est avant tout fondamental.
The voice of the private sector, especially the voice of women and representing youth and young girls as well, is extremely important, because of course in terms of being the drivers of trade, economic development, it's very important that our voices are heard and heard early, because whatever dialogue ensues and whatever policies emanate from this today forum, we are the people on the ground who have to play an integral role in making it happen.
I would hope that we'll have an opportunity not only to give an input during this discussion, but to be part of the process going forward, to ensure that the terms of the agreement are consistent with what we need in order to develop and grow the specific priority areas that we have identified.
I think that the ACP Secretariat is doing a fantastic job, but now we need to go beyond these words, and Post-Cotonou needs to be an era where we are talking about impact, where we are reaching our deliverables, and where we can say, yes, we are doing well as a region, and we are proud of ourselves as a people, as a group, as an entity, and that we are united together going forward.
So what am I expecting? I'm expecting that out of all these negotiations, we would, as the ACP regions, stick together to say, this is what we provide the world, and this is what we would like all the regions, whether it's the European Union or any other, to help us ensure that we have a wonderful world, that we can leave that sort of legacy, because we're only custodians of the current age. We have to look at not ourselves, but also our at the coming generations.